I quickly want to apologize if any of you managed to hear any rain, thunder, or lightning in the background of this video. A bad thunderstorm is going on right now in Tennessee, so if you hear anything like that, please forgive me. You know, I don't mean it, but there's nothing I can do to control the weather. I wish I could, but, you know, I can't. So if you hear any background, noise with rain, thunder, lightning, please forgive me. So with that being said, this episode of ACCA 13. Gene finds out about his best friend, Nino, and how he's been spying on him. And this is something I've been very curious about. Since we found out that Gene's best friend was a spy, watching and making sure that, Gene wasn't doing anything shady, I was curious to see if Gene knew about this, if he knew that his best friend was watching him. I had my speculations, maybe he already knew, but he was just keeping his cool and just not saying anything, because obviously he might be trying to start a rebellion. And in this episode, it is revealed that from what we can gather, that Gene did not know. He had his theories and guesses because some of the things link up together, but he really didn't know that Nino, his best friend, was the one watching him. However, the reaction that Gene and Nino had together when they found out and they revealed their secrets, it was very interesting because it didn't seem like overall their friendship was shattered. It seemed like overall they still cared for each other and that they will still continue to be friends, but right now it seems like Gene's wanting some alone time. Let me explain why. After Nino, says, yes, I've been watching you, and Gene finds out, Gene's like, you need to be with my sister for now, you need to watch her, making sure, take her out or whatever, just watch her for a while. It was in a very subtle way that Gene was pretty much telling Nino, fuck off, stop stalking me, and, take care of my sister for a while I'm gone. And so, Gene managed to get the stalker off his back, which was his best friend, but also allow his friend to watch his sister. So this is what this means. If you didn't care for someone, or in this case, if you didn't trust them enough and, care enough for them as a friend, you wouldn't allow this person to stay with your sister and watch them. So, in Gene's own way, he was stating to Nino, even if he caught on why he was having to be away from him, he was saying, look, I don't want you stalking me. I don't want you following me around because it's fucking rude. But I still care about you enough as a friend, and I trust you enough as a friend to stay with my sister and make sure she doesn't get in any trouble at all. So I can understand where that point is coming from, and I just like how Gene managed to just brush him off like that, but Nino probably understood why he did that. Now, one of the things about this conversation that was very off was that Nino stated, I'm not watching you because of ACCA. That is suspicious. So, I wonder if the person that put Nino up to this might be a part of the actual rebellion, and it might not be Gene at all. Maybe the person that told Nino to spy on Gene was actually the one that was a part of the rebellion, but he was, scouting Gene to see if he'd be a possible ally or not. Which this is something I do want to talk about now. In this episode, once again, there was another common theme going on. Bread. I mentioned this for the past 2 episode reviews I have done, and once again, I want to mention it again. Bread is a reoccurring topic in this series. I don't know exactly what it means. I've speculated that there might be some form of trade going on with bread or whatever. There could be deeper symbolism. I really don't know overall what that means, but bread is constantly something that is brought up every single episode now, and it's constantly brought up as something that just seems casual, but it must have some form of meaning to the series for the writer to constantly have this in every single episode, and to have it have so much focus in the series. I mean, soft bread, you hard bread, different stuff like this, and you have to wonder, what's the point of this? What is the meaning behind all this bread? Is it, some form of trading going on, or does it have a deeper message that I'm just completely unaware of right now? But there is one thing I can gather from this bread that I'm assuming might be, a meaning or a message to the series. If you noticed, these certain parts of the nation that have soft bread tend to be the more powerful nations, the technological advanced, society. For instance, they have more technology, they have stronger power, and they probably have more military might. And you have it to where these other countries that seem to be behind the times and set in a different era, they seem to have, harder bread that's not as soft as the stronger countries. And I wonder if this is some form of meaning or message here for the individual nations and showing who's really in power and who is not. Which shows that the place, the actual country that Gene is staying in, since it constantly has good bread, soft bread and stuff like that, shows that his nation might be the most powerful. Regardless, though, I can't wait to find out the secret of why bread is so important in this series, because there's just no way it's tasty and that's the only reason. There has to be something else here, a message that I'm not clearly understanding. Now, however, there's another thing that pops up in this episode, and that would be cigarettes. Now, as we already found out with the last episode of ACCA 13, there was a dude that, came up to Gene and was like, oh, hey, can we do some trading and stuff? And I'm like, can I have that phone? And Gene's like, maybe you could trade me in cigarettes. He popped out a cigarette and stuff. And then in this episode, a lone cigarette pops up in a letter for Gene to have, and apparently he's the only one in this part of the country that would be able to get a cigarette. So, once again, cigarettes being something very different, something completely off from everything else that we see in other countries, and once again, it might be symbolized as another way to trade with Gene if he is a part of some form of rebellion, setting up a, uprising to go up against the entirety of the nation/country. I'm curious if that is what's going on, for that to once again be emphasized. I don't know which one to really go on now. I don't know if it's the bread that's being very shady, or if it's the cigarettes. Whatever is going on here, Gene is definitely having some form of contacts and information coming in, and also how he's able to meet with the very person that, told Nino to spy on him. He managed to find him at the end of the episode like it was nothing, which that also is very weird. How did Gene manage to find this man out of all the people that looked exactly like him in town? You just don't do something like that. I mean, if you have an entire town that has a bunch of people that look like you, like they're your doppelganger, there's just no way you're going to be able to find them that easy unless you already have prior information of where they're going to be at. And so with that, I wonder how Gene is getting all his information. How is he understanding certain things that are going on? Regardless, though, I don't really know whose side Gene is on. I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy, but there's a lot of dialogue that he does that really shows that, once again, he is shady. Like the scene with, Nino and him, how he's like, oh, I know you're not the type of person to make me get in deep trouble and all that. So he's like, even if you knew that I was doing some shady shit, I don't think you'd be the one to say something. Because we can take this from last week's episode. Nino was there. Nino was watching Gene. He was there for when that entire rebellion happened. He was there. And he didn't report anything to his, supervisor. He didn't report anything at all. He said nothing really happened. Even though Nino wasn't really a part of ACCA at that point, he was just spying on, Gene, he could have reported anything he wanted because he wasn't forced to do a gag order. So what we can gather from this is that Nino does not tell everyone everything that he sees. So if he does see something that Gene is doing very shady, he might not say anything at all. So Gene could possibly be doing some shady shit behind the scenes, but he's not saying anything because he cares about him as a friend. And you could clearly see that Nino does care about Gene quite a bit when he realized that his identity was, discovered, how he was discovered he was a spy. You saw in his face, he's like, oh shit, my friendship might be ruined now because Gene knows the truth. You just see the way he reacted and how he was just acting in that entire moment, like something was really off with him. So he does care about Gene. He's not just using Gene, he's just not spying on him and all that just because it's business. You can see he clearly does care. He does think of Gene quite a bit as a friend, and the way he acted like that just proves he does care deeply for him. So the question is he the type of person to hold secrets, or is he someone that will tell the truth? We'll have to see where it goes with the series. So overall, this episode of ACCA 13, another wonderful episode. Had to listen to that opening song about 3 to 5 times before I started this episode because it was just that good. You know how I am. And so yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How'd you feel about this week's episode of ACCA 13? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Please let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. Please be safe. Chibi out.